Here we go again. The events of recent kind of run through my head, and I'm trying to process some of the things that I've been seeing. And, to be clear, I usually find myself more in the middle. I'm not left, I'm not right. But I do pay particular attention to the goings on and the way different things are framed when it comes to supposed news. And going back and looking at things, just today I come across the fact that Hillary and Eric Holder are now basically suggesting being uncivil. Of course, this is a message to their base, and their base is Democratic uh, and left liberal because they somewhat share some ideologies. So I look at media's portrayal of the right as being intolerant. And although I've seen cases where the right may get a little bit angry, I still haven't seen many situations where the right becomes violent. But I am seeing that when it comes to the left and supposed Democrats. And when you look at Antifa, they seem to be at a very large root of it. We have situations in recent time where Republican representatives have been even shot. So it's astounding to me that certain representatives would support or certain past political figures, in the case of Holder, would whip up violence. Now, there were some that will argue the fact that, Mad Max, Hillary in her commentary, or Holder, didn't really tell the base to be violent. But if you're going to suggest to me that these people are not educated enough to realize that this will definitely potentially affect the less stable in that base, well, we'll have to agree to disagree if that's the case, because I would think any intelligent human being, including myself, I would weigh my words carefully in order to not encourage anyone to interpret what I say as a suggestion to reach towards violence in order to motivate your opponents. So I've watched where one supposed news outlet suggests that, the right had no problem with angry, voices. There's a difference between an angry voice and somebody being loud or venting their position and their frustration, as opposed to acts of violence. That is a completely different thing. And it is somewhat appalling to me that media would try to suggest that this actual violence is somehow justified because the right has been a bit loud and angry with various things. They are two completely different ways of handling your emotions. One is not physically harmful, the other one is. And I have seen videos, and reports, pictures posted of people actually having to go to the emergency room with gashes in their head because somebody on the left, liberal, a Democrat, decides that they're going to be violent. And this is a conscious choice. Now, I've had friends that have argued the fact that during protests, there have been cases where CIA or local law enforcement has planted people in those protests who have done things that stirred violence. And although this is a correct assertion, it does happen. The problem still becomes more about why those around decide to also participate. Okay? We're talking about two different mindsets here. We're talking about those that are adults and know how adults are supposed to act, and those that pretend to be adults, in my opinion. An adult doesn't stoop to the violence. An adult is capable of listening to opposing views. They don't shout their opponents down. They don't throw temper tantrums when they don't get their own way. And Hillary's bullcrap commentary about, we can be civil once. No. In my opinion, at this point in time, as I said, I don't toe party lines. But on this occasion, the more that this stuff continues to go on, the more I am inclined to feel and believe I don't want any liberal, left, or Democrat in a position of power because of what they are willing to stoop to and the danger that presents to myself, my children, my grandchildren, my fellow man. Then we have this constant, the Democrats are, the ones for freedom and all that. People, you really need to do your research. Different things that gave blacks their freedom, legal and law related, Democrats did not vote for. So just because black Democrat looks at you and says that they're the ones that freed slaves, you look into history any bit and you will come to find out the ones that had them for the most part were rich Democrats, not Republicans. It is time for people to stop being led by their nose. I understand and realize everybody's busy. There's a lot going on there in life today. We just had the Federal Reserve acting like the assets they are in order to again orchestrate through increasing interest rates another stock market issue. And we have people trying to blame Trump for that. It's not what created it, and it's not knowing what created it. It's been the banks and their bullshit. And if you are that ignorant because of your hatred, that you want to put things on somebody else just to further your agendas, I don't stand with you. And to those that would have used the Trumpanzee commentary, even I don't agree with everything that man has done. But at least I don't have such hatred that I can't even give him credit for things he has done. And there is one thing nobody can argue: the right to try. People that were potentially going to die anyways never had the opportunity that they have now. And that's because of what he did. So you can try and spin that one any way you want. Okay? But that is one. You're full of shit if you do. Okay? I don't care much for different things that he's done. But the right to try, I am definitely 100% supportive of that. For what he has done to try to improve things for veterans, I am definitely 100% supportive of that. No matter what the lead time is for it or how long it's going to take, the fact of the matter is the man still did something that will eventually help vets that were in very bad need of that help. And those are just two. He's also drawn attention to the bullshit that news pulls. I am in my mid-40s, and I have never in my entire lifetime saw supposed news due to a standing president what this country's present day joke excuse for news does. And I watch all of it because I already know the bullshit games that they play. I know there are certain stations that have a left-leaning bias. They're only going to tell you things and they're going to put a spin on it to support the left political agenda. There's other ones that do the same where it's concerns to the right. I've found in my years that the truth in things are never on the extremes. They lie somewhere in the middle. It's where compromise is always found. It's never found at the extremes. So, those of you that want to have a knee-jerk reaction to this and you want to start your little character assassination bullshit, understand that. I look at a lot of different places. And when I have to dig in order to find mention of a right to try, or the things that he's done for vets, or there's certain things I only find in alternative media, it tells me all I need to know. And this whole idea of perfection from imperfect beings. And for those of you, well, okay, well, the left and Antifa, no, I'm not expecting them to be perfect. I'm expecting them to be civil adults. And there's a lot of them that clearly are not. When you come to a point in your ideologies and your mentality that everything is all or nothing, that there has to be some degree of perfection in a representative, you are not realistic and you're not very mentally stable. When you cannot, because of hatred, even give somebody credit for the good that they do, again, you are not an adult and you are not mentally stable. I hear the left bitch and gripe about justice. When you can't even give somebody credit for what they do, and all you want to do is tear them down, how in the hell is that anything even similar or resembling justice? Please, explain that one to me. What I witnessed in the Kavanaugh stuff, that was a joke. Democratic representatives, even after knowing the wishes of the woman making the accusations, still refused to do things in such a way that would have maintained her privacy. They used it to showboat. They used it to smear. And then, when different people started looking at things, because I spent the better part of, 3 days watching that. Got news for you. Your assumptions and the bullshit claims about survivors, got news for you. There's been a lot of women that have lied about it. And it's destroyed quite a decent number of good men's lives. This country was based on rule of law. It was based on innocent until proven guilty. And I know damn well what that side was trying to do with this twisting spin bullshit. And if you think for 1 minute that they would have stopped at just rape, you're naive. Because the minute this group gets precedence for something, they push it to the hilt. And there would have been a lot of other people that would have been suffering the same fate. It was effectively an orchestrated event in order to totally turn on its head the rule of law and innocent until proven guilty. Now, the ones on the left, they wanted to spin it into this bullshit of, oh, you don't support survivors. No, that ain't it. The reason I didn't support it is because when the stuff started coming out, I dug into it. I saw connections that I didn't care for. And then as I watched this circus play out, I knew it was for something other than protecting survivors. See, I've had women in my life that have been abused sexually, and not by me. There are certain things they'd never forget. When you go through that, there are certain things you never forget. Then you start digging into the ties. You start looking at how things were done. And it became pretty damn evident what it was for anybody with half a brain. Just because some of us might believe in the rule of law and innocent until proven guilty doesn't mean we don't support survivors. But I agree with, what was it, Judge Jeannie? You got a situation like that. Don't be projecting your shit on innocent people. Just because your emotions, you want justice. You want justice? Face your accuser. Take your accuser to court. File charges. You want to end stuff like that? You send a message that you guys aren't going to be silent. You don't project it onto somebody else. You don't emotionally knee-jerk react because you think somebody else is as honest as you are. They might not be. So for me at this point in time, I have no love at all for Democrats, Antifa, people that want to be, throw temper tantrums because they don't get their own way. If you think that's an adult, your parents failed you. That's not an adult. Adults have a dialogue. Adults look at fact. That's the other thing with this. There are so many people with agendas doing research. It's not funny. If you do not know who sponsored the research and what the research, the person doing it, got from it, you have no clue how to evaluate that research. And in my mid-40s, I've seen a hell of a lot of it, and I've learned to question it. Just like this bullshit, blue wave coming. Yeah, I get it. Talking about a red wave too. But here's the thing. Unlike what seems to be the majority of this population, watch TV and think they're informed. Usually, one side or the other leaning authority. They don't have a clue that they even need to ask questions or they need to dig into things. I do. Watching things and thinking you're informed. It all creates an echo chamber. My last video was about that and the dangers of it. What's going on with social media right now? What, today, yesterday, there was another 800 more opposing view voices that were silenced. It's not good. When you make a decision that the ends justify the means and you have no compassion for justice or honesty, you're just as corrupt as the people you're bitching about that hold those representative offices in Washington, D.C. Just as corrupt. No ends justifies the means when honesty, integrity are lost. Anyways, Obama and Michelle did about everything they could while they were in office to divide this country, especially along the lines of police versus us. That didn't work. Almost did. Now they've gone another route. Now it's left versus right. All of it, every last bit of it, goes right back to the communist goals for America. There were 42 of them. Part of that was capturing a political party. Well, given all those democratic socialists, it should be pretty damn obvious which one they captured. With all the socialist leaning in the Democrats at this point in time, this is the other thing that makes me laugh. Healthcare is a right. Of course it is. But here's the thing. The left wants to hand it out. The Dems kind of want to hand it out. The right, they have a problem with who's paying for it. But that again is twisted and spun into the suggestion that, oh, well, you don't care about the poor and the elderly. No. What is it the left can't see in that basically suggests if we had a system that created self-efficient, self-supportive people, strong, independent people that could care for themselves, it wouldn't have to be a bunch of other people that paid for them to be taken care of. So why doesn't the system create that? The reason the system doesn't create that is because they want a dependency on government. Different ones. If you have strong, self-sufficient people, they don't need government. Government can remain small. And every time somebody complains about the government stepping into something, you are basically giving away freedoms and rights. What? Because we're not adult enough to do it ourselves. It's a very dangerous game that's being played right now. And because of this echo chamber and the silencing of dissenting opinions and the uncivility and the let me throw a temper tantrum because I don't like what you think, it's creating a situation where, again, they think they're a majority. And they keep becoming violent. And what I see happening is that the silent majority, not willing to be bullied, not willing to be physically injured, defends themselves. And I see the potential for death. And if you pursue that to the end conclusions, if things go the way they've been going, of course, that silent majority is going to get the blame for it instead of the bullies that started it. Anyways, just my view on the past weeks, what I see happening, and why. Just stuff for you guys to think about.